Hi, my name is Kobe Banavong, and this is my project two of the water utility company project. This is my code. So the first thing we have is our variables are what are the three values that we are needed to ask to the user. And first we have is the customer's code, and we just input a customer's code because it can't be a number, it only could be a letter, and we need a beginning meter and ending meter. So we do integer input because the beginning meter is going to be a number of a nine-digit number, and the ending meter is also going to be a integer input because it's also going to be a number as well that the user is going to input. And once the user inputs those three values, the code will run through this process where it goes through a residential, if the or commercial and industrial. Um, so customer's code for the customer's code, in order for it to process right, it needs to either be an R, a C, or an I. For the R, it stands for residential, and this part of the statement, if customer code equals R and customer's code equals R, it just shows that if the customer code is equal to R, then it goes through this, and the beginning meter and ending meter has to be within range in order for it to process. If and this is a if else statements. For the first two, if el and the if else, um, if the beginning meter and ending meter is out of range, um, then it's just the water use and cost is going to be 0, 0, because it's out of range and it cannot work. However, if the beginning meter and ending meter is within range, it will shoot to the if, where the beginning meter is less than the ending meter. And if that happens, then all we have to do for the water use to find the gallons of water used, we just have to find the difference. So we just do the ending meter minus the beginning meter, and we times it by 0.10 because we record the water gallon used by tenths. And for our cost for the amount billed, our prompt gives us a information billing of $5 flat rate plus an additional 0.005 per gallon used. So that's what we have for our cost. So we use our water used and we times it by 0.005 to give us additional charge fees, and then we add the flat rate of $5, and that will give us our water use or our gallons of water used and our cost amount billed. For the beginning, however, if there's a part where or a scenario where the beginning meter could be greater than the ending meter, and if that happens, we can't just subtract the ending meter minus beginning meter because that'll give us a negative number. So we have to take the percent 10 to get a positive integer, and we times it by 0.10 because we recorded the gallons of water used by tenths. And the same process is for the cost as for if the beginning meter is less than ending meter. And if all that works, if it goes through and everything is true, then it will print out the customer code, the beginning meter reading, the ending meter reading, the gallons of water used, and the amount billed. And the code will stop from there. Um, if, however, if the customer code does not equal an R, it can possibly equal a C. So if it equals a C, it will run the commercial part where the customer has to equal either a lowercase c or an uppercase C, and the beginning meter and the ending meter has to be within range. And the first part, the if and the if part, first part, um, it's the same process. So if it's out of range of the beginning meter and the ending meter, then the water usage is 0 and the cost is 0. And if the beginning meter is less than the ending meter, we have the same process. So to find the water usage, just to find the difference. So ending meter minus beginning meter, and you times it by a tenth. Um, and for if the beginning meter is greater than the ending meter, we have to give it a positive integer, so we just take the ending meter minus the beginning meter to give us a difference, and we take the percent 10 to give us a positive integer, and we times it by point 10 to give us a tenth, to record it by tenths. For the cost, however, it's more complicated as um, that for if we have our gallons used, then um, it shows that in the prompt that if $1,000 for 4 million gallons or less, and additional 0.0025 for additional gallon use. So this pretty much means that if we use more than or less than or equal to 4 million, then it's just 1,000 flat rate. But if it exceeds 4 million gallons used, then we have to have an additional charge of 0.0025 per gallon uh, plus the flat rate of 1,000. So this is what we have. So in order to find the cost, we have to find, or if it's less than or equal to 4 million, then it's just a flat rate of 1,000. But if it's greater than 4 million, then we have to find the difference of um, over 4 million. So we just take the water used and we subtract it by 4 million, and then we times it by 0.0025 to give us the additional charge plus the flat rate of 1,000, and that will give us our cost. So if everything is true, then it will print all these statements. So it'll print out the customer's code, the beginning meter reading, the ending meter reading, and the gallons of water used, and the mem build. And the process will stop there. There's also another option or scenario where a user will not put in an R and will not put in a C, but it will put in an I. Um, And if that's the case, then we go to the another if statement. So if a customer puts in a lowercase I and or an uppercase I, and the beginning meter and ending meter is within range, then we then we go on to the next statement. So if the beginning meter is out of range, or the ending meter is out of range, then the water use and the cost is just 0. Um, but if that's not the case, then it just goes to the beginning meter. If the beginning meter is less than the ending meter, and to find the water use, we just take the difference, so ending meter minus beginning meter, and times it by point 0.10, because we record it by tenths. And if the beginning meter is greater than the ending meter, we just find the difference, but we percent 10 because we have to get a positive integer, and we times it by point 0.10 to record it in tenths. For the cost, however, there is three options where you can be billed. So if your gallons used is more than 4 million gallons, then it's just a flat rate of 1,000. And if um, your gallons used exceeds 4 million but doesn't exceed 10 million, then it's just a flat rate of 2,000. And if it exceeds 10 million, then it's a flat rate of 2,000 plus plus an additional fee of 0.0025 per additional gallons used over 10 million. So that's what we have for our cost. So if our water use is less than or equal to 4 million, then it's just a flat rate of 1,000. And if our water use is greater than 4 million but less than 10 million, then it's just a flat rate of 2,000. But if our water use is greater than 10 million, then we have to find the difference from 10 million and times it by 0.0025 to give us our additional charge. And you plus it, then you add it by the additional or by the flat rate of 2,000. And that will give us our billing. And the same thing is for if the beginning meter is greater than the ending meter. And if everything is true, if it's true, then it will print out the statements of the customer codes, beginning meter readings, ending meter reading, gallons of water used, and amount billed. And it will stop there. But there's also another scenario where the customer doesn't equal or doesn't put in a R, a C, or an I. They'll put in some random letter, and if that's the case, then it'll print out an invalid entry, and the water use and the cost will just equal 0. Um, Now we are going to um, run it and test some examples of it. Um, so this is what it'll print out for our input. So look, it'll print out the customer's code. So just for example, our customer code is a R for residential. And our beginning meter would be 4444. Oh, my bad. 4444 0000 and 3. And then I guess our ending meter would be 4444 000135. Um, so we have our three inputs. So we have our customer codes, beginning meter reading, and our ending meter reading. And if everything is true and it's not, and we put in numbers that not are within range, and we have a customer's code that equals either an R, a C, or an I, and it's an R, so it will go through the R, the residential statements. So it will print out or an output of our customer's code is R, a beginning meter reading of that number, and the ending meter reading of the number that we put in as well. But our gallons of water use is 13.2, so that's how much gallons. That's how many gallons we used, and the amount billed is $5.01. So that's how much we are gonna get billed um, if we use that amount in the beginning meter reading and then ending meter reading. Let's run another scenario where we put in C. So if we put in C, um, which is commercial, and we add 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we put in an intermediate reading of that. It'll print out the same thing, except it'll print out our inputs, and the gallons of water is zero point 0.8, and our amount billed is $1,000. Because we not for our commercial, the flat rate is 1,000 if our water use is less than 4 million, and that's the case that we had, which then it's just a flat rate of 1,000. So let's also run another scenario where you have an I, which is industrial. So we put capital I. It doesn't matter if we put lowercase or uppercase, upper I, because we put the if statement or the or statement. So it doesn't. It could be either or. So we would just do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we'll just do um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah. So we have that. We print out an I statement. It'll print out the I, print out the beginning meter reading, print out the end of meter reading. The gallons used is zero point 0.8, and our amount billed is 1,000. It's the same as this because we have the same scenario where if it's less than 4 million, then it's just a flat rate of 1,000. There's also, okay, so we have another entry or another scenario where what if the customer doesn't have either an R, C, or an I, so they put in K. We could have random numbers, and because it doesn't matter, and if that ever happens, then it will print out an invalid entry and gallons of water used 0, amount of water billed is 0. Um, Let's also run a scenario where we put in the right one, but our beginning meter is way out of range, and our meter reading is way out of range. Then it'll just put our gallons of water used is 0 and the amount billed is 0, because it's way out of range, so it's just 0. So yeah, that is our examples of what our program will print out. And thank you for watching.